Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
This is the first time something happening sooner makes everything worse.
No, it's sorry the way they announced it to Twitter of all things.
Okay,
Anyway, you guys want to go ahead and get started on the episode, though?
Sure.
Alright, hi everyone, welcome to the very first episode of Geeky Gentleman Comedy Month. I am Ian Harrington, aka Sid Part 2. I'm joined today by Ruben DeBoard, the most delicious Geeky Gentleman, aka the Comics Kid 2099. He's got like a bunch of titles. And Steve Baxey, aka Steve Baxey. He does not have many titles.
I'm not creative.
Yeah. So we're beginning Geeky Gentleman Comedy Month, oddly enough, to completely shatter the illusion. This is the first episode of Geeky Gentleman Comedy Month, but it is the last one we were recording for the first week, so that's kind of funny. Anyway, and I picked our review topic tonight, and it's been a while since we've done this compare and contrast style review, but we're going to talk about It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, which we'll now just be calling Mad World. You don't think of the depressing song, think of the funny movie. And Rat Race. Mad World came out in 1963, and Rat Race in 2001. So tons of... What? I'm sorry, what?
Was it that recent? God.
Yeah, I mean, that recent, like, 17 years ago.
Yeah, okay, still. I know it was almost 20 years ago, but it feels like yesterday.
I know, you're old. Yeah, so like this is just an interesting thing because they're the exact same movie, you know, almost 40 years apart.
Yep.
But they like, as far as marketing or studio intention goes, they have nothing to do with each other. Rat Race was not conceived as a remake or reboot of It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. It just is a thing that they did, and it shares the exact same premise. And I find that interesting.
That is so weird, because watching this, like, when you mentioned that last week, and I was thinking, like, well, of course it's a remake. Like, it's the same thing. And then, like, you're saying it again, and I was reading up on this earlier today, and it's like, wow, they were really, like, pretending like this was its own thing, but it is the same movie. Like, I don't know. I'll let you keep going with your thought, but I just think that's weird.
No, that's kind of just where I'm at. Like, how did they make the exact same movie, and to the point where it's basically a spiritual sequel, and then not just say, oh yeah, it's a sequel to It's Mad, 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 Mad World. Like, I just don't know how this happened. I don't know. Steve, what are your thoughts on that whole bag of worms?
I have no idea. To be fair, I feel like Mad World was influential enough to where in making Rat Race, you probably knew you were doing it. You just tried to avoid it so you wouldn't have to bill yourself as a remake.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, it's Stanley Kramer. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. When watching Mad World, it feels legitimately iconic. And I feel like a lot of things have done this somewhere along the line. Like, Wacky Races pulls from Mad World, too. But, I don't know. It's weird that they didn't even... It's weird that they never even owned up to the fact that they must have been thinking about Mad World at some point.
Well, like, just even down to the opening credits, it's really, really similar. Where it's got, like,
the same movie.
Yeah, it's got, like, a whole song, and it's got, like, a animated bit to it with, you know, these, like, cartoony kind of caricatures and all this stuff. It just feels like the same fucking movie.
Okay, well, hang on one sec, though. Because I don't want to repeat of 1408. Which version did you guys watch?
Oh,
Mad World.
Of Mad World?
Yeah, there's like 4.
Oh, well, the cut I watched was on DVD, and it was 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah,
including the intermission.
Yeah, that sounds about like Yeah.
Okay, so just a fun fact for people that don't know. When Stanley Kramer originally made Mad World, it was somewhere in the ballpark of 220 minutes. And then United Artists was like, that's way too fucking long for a comedy. So they chopped it down to 160 minutes. But then a lot of the footage that they cut against Stanley Kramer's wishes deteriorated. And 10, 15 years ago, something like that, they brought in a film restoration expert to get some of that footage back. And I think like the longest cut they have now is like 190 minutes. So there's still like a good 15 minutes of that movie that no one's ever going to see.
Well, like, yeah, there's that one scene where the sleazy guy in the brown suit, like, he's getting followed by the police helicopter, and he's hitchhiked with the dude in the blue Corvette, blue convertible. He's hitchhiked with that dude, and the police helicopter starts following him, and then it cuts away, and the next time you see him, he's just driving that dude's car on his own. And it's like, what happened there?
Yeah.
Like I totally believe this guy's capable of swindling someone like that, but just that came out of nowhere as far as the film goes. I didn't know there was so much missing from this movie.
There's a lot missing from this movie. There's also... It was filmed in widescreen, but then there was like a full screen conversion, and there's like edges of frame and stuff that's been missing for years too. So like it's a wonder Mad World plays as well as it does, given how much shit it's gone through.
See, that's crazy. I didn't know all the history of that, because, like I said, the version I have is like probably the longest version that exists. Then,
I assume it would have to be, right? So you said about 2 hours 40 minutes, so like 106. Wait, yeah, 160, 170.
And it's got like just this really... I don't understand leaving the intermission in on the DVD. Like, that's really bizarre to me, but it's on there.
I mean, I'm down with that. It's just if we're going to have an intermission, I would have preferred it to be in the whole, like, long-ass 3-hour cut.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
Now that we live in a world where 2.5-hour movies are kind of normal, intermissions should only be there if you're up to 3 hours.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, and this may be an unpopular opinion, I kind of agree that like 3 hours is too long for just a movie in general.
I agree.
I think that 2 hours is about the limit for me, and these days, like, you'll have like action adventure movies that are 2.5 hours, and I think that's getting a little too long sometimes. Like Mad World, I kind of feel like it drags on in places, even at the cut down level. I think like there's several moments where it keeps adding wrinkles to the plot, and I'm thinking like, did we really have to do that? We could have like cut the movie down quite a bit, even more. But maybe you guys feel like it worked well at the level that it was at.
You know, just for me, I think it works fine in the context of the time. Mm-hmm. Like the pacing was just very different back then. And like this is a problem with trying to talk about or watch classic films, is you have to realize that the pacing that they had is different than our pacing. Modern films are paced like fucking lightning by comparison. If you were to take, you know, the thing I always go to in my head is the very first episode of BBC's Sherlock series. Yeah. If you were to take that and play it for an audience that like had just gotten talking in pictures, they would have no idea what the fuck is going on. It's too fast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so like just the way Mad World is paced, it's long to us, but I feel like it was fine or normally paced for them back then. Mm-hmm. So like I don't agree that I think it could be or needs to be shorter. I think the length at which it's at right now with the restoration is just fine. I would be fine with seeing more content depending on what it is. Like, you know, Steve and I were just recording our Three Stooges video before this. If we'd actually gotten a scene with the Three Stooges as opposed to just them quickly on camera, I would have been fine with it. If like that was another 10 minutes or something of them trying to deal with, you know, being firefighters, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah. And I also for some reason, I'm okay with some older movies, and then some of them I'm just like, oh, when is this going to end? Like, I haven't seen 12 Angry Men since I was in high school, but I remember really enjoying that movie. And that movie now, if you showed it to somebody who is mostly used to watching newer movies, like if you showed it to someone who has grown up on the pacing of movies like Sherlock, the BBC Sherlock, if you showed that movie to someone, they'd be like, wow, this is really long and boring. But like, I remember really liking 12 Angry Men, but then like Mad World, I just remember like thinking, man, this is like just really long and almost repetitive. But that's kind of hypocritical because I enjoyed Rat Race and I hadn't seen it until today. And it's basically, I could say the exact same thing about Rat Race. It's very repetitive, and it's using a lot of the same style of humor. Like, I was surprised that Rat Race, in a lot of ways, it is the same kind of movie. It's not even trying to be a, like, different kind of movie. It's remarkable how similar they are.
No, definitely. And, like, I feel what the difference comes down to is Rat Race has closer to modern-day pacing. Mm-hmm. You know, just the way things are cut and edited, like the way they introduce the characters, the way in which they differentiate how everybody's getting to where they're getting, because Mad World is interesting because you could almost call it a car movie. Mm-hmm. It is very close to being a car movie, if not for the fact that two of the best scenes involve characters flying. Whereas Rat Race, like, they're switching vehicles left and right. They're doing all kinds of weird stuff. There's a helicopter chase, all that stuff. Like, it's not nearly the, like, same focus on really good car filming for comedies purposes. Whereas Mad World definitely has that.
Well, I guess to get somewhere on that debate with Todd, I guess I'm somewhere in between you two, because I agree that older movies are much slower tonally. But I don't generally think they were longer. I think they were just slower.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Mad World is definitely too long.
Okay.
I don't mind how slow it is. I just think it's too long.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then Rat Race, I have the same problem with. I think Rat Race is also way too long. But I don't think Rat Race is too slow either. It's weird. I feel like the style of humor Rat Race has and the actors that are in it, the pace is fine. It's just too long. Whereas Rat Race, it's methodical and it's funny because it's methodical, but it just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah, at a certain point, you just want it to be over, and it just, like, God, that Smash Mouth concert.
It's frustrating because it's just a series of bits at a certain spot in the movie, and I feel like there's never like a chunk of the movie that I would cut out. It's always like after 50, it's like always like this part here needs to leave, and this part here needs to leave, and this scene here needs to leave, but everything in between can stay.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you that, like, Rat Race, there comes a certain point where I was, like, looking at my watch, and then it's like, wow, there's still 20 minutes left of this movie. And because, what's his name? Mr. Bean gets to the locker, and you're thinking, okay, we're about ready to wrap things up. Like, in a superhero movie, this would be when the superhero has, like, you know, beaten down the supervillain and has him in handcuffs. And then it's like, there's still 20 minutes left in the movie. And it's like, well, what could they possibly do with 20 extra minutes? And
well, like, dude, it's the same with Mad World. They get to the park, they find the giant W, they dig it up, and then there's still like 20 minutes of chase and comedy left with the cop character.
That's true, yeah.
It's the exact same plot twist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's kind of ridiculous. So I don't know, like, I can't really say that one's too long and the other's not. I think they're both surprisingly long for comedies. I was really shocked because I did not remember how long these were.
You made us sit there in front of a TV screen for 5 hours this week.
Sorry.
5 hours.
Well, shit. Pick a TV show. There. You can have your revenge.
I will have my revenge, because 5 hours.
God damn, sorry. No, like, dude, it really surprised me. Like, I was thinking about it last night. I was like, okay, I'll figure out, like, how soon after I get home I have to watch both movies. And, like, I looked at the runtime on Mad World, I'm like, it's almost 3 hours. I'm not gonna have time to watch both movies tomorrow. So I stayed up last night till 1 a.m. watching Rat Race, so I'd be able to watch Mad World when I got home today. Side note, work is entirely too much of a portion of your day. It's bullshit. Anyway, no, so like they're both really long, but I don't think either one of them is too long. It just, at no point am I like, okay, I'm really bored now and I just want it to end. I'm really enjoying them all the way through for both films.
Okay, yeah.
It's not that I'm not enjoying them as much as it's just there are moments I enjoy way more than others, and I wish I could cut the moments I didn't, because it's just so sporadic.
Name a moment you didn't in each film.
I don't know.
Because, for me, I think these are, I'm amazed to find out that parts of Mad World have been cut, because it's so... Both movies are so interdependent on each other. Mm-hmm. Things that happen in both films, they're really well structured, because things that happen just cannot happen for other characters if you don't have this plot line going on with the other character.
I mean, that's fair.
Mad World, they maybe start to introduce too many characters, Sylvester is kind of superfluous, but goddamn if he isn't one of my favorite characters in the whole fucking movie.
Is he the guy... Is Sylvester... Have you seen The Producers, the original one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I think he's the actor that ends up playing Hitler in the original Producers.
Oh, yeah, he is so funny in both of those movies. But yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. I agree.
He has a thing for just randomly dancing, I guess. That fucking bit where, they call his house and he and his girl are just dancing, and she's got the fucking straightest face in the world on, sitting there dancing in her bra and panties, is bizarrely hilarious to me. That is GIF-worthy right there, dude.
I watched part of Mad World for the first time. I was in 6th grade, and I guess it was near the end of the quarter, and my history teacher, who was in his 70s, he just did not want to start a new topic that close to the end of the quarter. We were 2 days away from spring break or whatever, and so he wanted to show a movie, so he ended up choosing this. And I remember him telling us 5 times before we started the movie, he said, you have to watch the beginning. If you don't, you're going to be confused throughout the entire film. And he was probably correct, probably true about that. But then I remember these people beside me who were not paying attention throughout the whole thing. And then I guess during the intermission, everyone went to use the bathroom. And I remember hearing them talk about are you watching this? And one of them said, no. And they said, well, I was watching that dance scene. And I was just thinking yeah, of course you were. These are 6th graders, and then here's a woman in her underwear dancing. That's definitely going to be the part they're paying attention to.
It's so exploitative, but just I don't know, something about the way that actress sells it. Because she's still dancing when she answers the fucking phone, and she's just got this stone face on her, and I'm just what are you doing? She's either the greatest actress in film history or the worst. I have no idea which. It's wildly entertaining to watch, though. There's a meme where it's that goes around on Twitter where it goes, me at 9 o'clock, I'm kind of tired. I should go to bed early. Me at 3 a.m. And then it's just either a really weird GIF or video. And that totally fits for what that should be. Just stone face dancing in your underwear. Mm-hmm. Just really works for me. Oh man. No, but I feel everything's really tightly structured in Mad World. Even more so in Rat Race. A lot of the events of Rat Race, particularly when Rat Race seems really interesting because I have a feeling that all of the actors were not filming at the same time, except for the very beginning and the very end of the movie. Mm-hmm. I really get the sense that this movie was made probably over the course of a year, and they are all available at separate times as far as the groups go, because they're rarely on screen or directly cross paths with each other like they do in Mad World. But mm-hmm. What's his name doesn't steal Hitler's car unless Seth Green and his brother break his van.
Yeah.
And they don't break his van unless they unless they get the rental car, and they don't get the rental car unless they get the unless they destroy the air traffic control tower, and they don't do that unless unless they're unable to get plane tickets. And because they destroy the air traffic control tower, what's his face and the chick don't meet up to go fly the helicopter, and then they're not there for just everything starts to become so interdependent. And
Newman from Seinfeld, he's delivering the heart because they couldn't put it on a plane.
Yep.
And even like if you just cut like one scene between Newman and Kramer, or not Newman and Mr. Bean, like if you just cut one scene with them because you're like, oh, this movie's too long, then the next scene with them would make no sense. Like you would just end up with a scene with them in the middle of a field looking for a heart if you miss the scene where he throws it out the window. So like you really can't cut anything from this movie. I can't think of anything you'd be able to cut.
Yeah, it's a really, really tightly structured film.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing you would cut is you could just end it slightly earlier.
Yeah.
That's about it, and I wouldn't want them to do that. So it's really interesting how, because like when we talk about comedy, a lot of comedy is really precisely timed and rehearsed because comedy works based on timing, and so like the pace is a direct result of how things are timed out and rehearsed like that. When you talk about writing out and scripting comedy like this, so I think these are almost really, really well structured, if not perfectly structured films.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not that comes off as too long, I don't know. I think part of the reason that it might not have worked as well for you and Steve as far as the length did you guys watch these alone?
Yeah.
And I don't know if... Okay, yeah, Steve, you did too. I think comedy is one of those things where I can certainly watch comedic shows and stuff on my own, and I'll laugh plenty, and sometimes I'll have the weird thing where I laugh harder on my own than I do with other people. But most of the time for comedy, if I'm not watching it with people, it's never quite as funny.
Yeah.
There's a group aspect to comedy, and like I remember watching Rat Race in theaters and laughing at it. I remember watching Mad World with my dad, and like his laughing would get me laughing, kind of thing. So I think that might be a part of it that's like making you notice the length more because you're watching it on your own.
Well, and I think part of it is atmosphere, like a theater. Like, so Blade Runner 2049 is my favorite movie of last year. It's also one of my favorite movies of all time now. But I refuse to watch it again because it's 2 hours and 45 minutes long. And if I'm not forced into an environment of nothing but like darkness and the screen, it's going to be really hard to have that same reaction because I have everything else around me to distract me. And it's really similar when you're watching a 3-hour comedy like this where you have to pay attention. But there's nothing that says you need to pay attention unless someone else is next to you committing you to paying attention.
I know. Like, so are you trying to say that Blade Runner 2049's really poor box office and thus, by extension, nearly empty theaters made it, like, the perfect environment to watch that movie in?
Yes.
That's hilarious. Because Haley and I had the same thing. We went to go see Blade Runner 2049, and there was, like, one other person in the theater with us.
I hate everyone for not making that movie a success, but at the same time, thank God no one was in the theater.
Anyway, so... Yeah, I feel like these are really well-structured films, but let's talk about something else. So a lot of these work on like teams. Like you have like Whoopi Goldberg and her daughter character, and you have like you have the Englishman and the husband character that end up like working together, and all these team dynamics. Did you guys have a favorite team from either film? Or one for each film, rather.
I'd say Mad World, Sylvester's team, just because that actor, like you said, he just cracks me up. And I'll go ahead and admit part of it is that he is so funny in The Producers, but he's also really killing it in Mad World. And so, like, every scene with him, like, just brings joy to my life. And then in Rat Race, It's hard to say. It might be Breckenmeyer and the girl in the helicopter, because at first I thought, oh, they're really gonna keep him out of the race. How is he gonna stay in the movie? And then like as soon as he becomes as greedy as everyone else, I'm like, okay, there it is. That's hilarious. And then when she becomes a psychopath later on, I was like actually slapping my knees laughing. I was by myself in my house laughing out loud at that scene where she's like vandalizing the truck and everything. Like, so that was probably my favorites.
That is one of the best shot scenes in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
The freaking helicopter chase down the highway. That was a great scene. How about you, Steve? You got a favorite duo or team from either film? Steve? Oh no, we lost the Steve. Oh well, Steve will be back, I'm sure. For me, I really, really like Seth Green and the brother. There's something to me about just screaming at the camera that I find hilarious. Just, God, I can laugh at that all day. Of just with his fucking like infected ass tongue. God. And then like it's just from the very beginning with the fucking shot glass, and then when they try to take out the tower and it just destroys their Jeep. That's really funny too. That whole sequence is great. And like they just have all the best sequences. Like there's the Jeep, and then there's the monster truck, and there's the like field of cows and the hot air balloon. Just all of that shit is ridiculous, and I love it to death. As far as Mad World goes, the dentist and his wife getting stuck in that fucking hardware store when they were clearly in the lead and it takes them that long to get out was really, really entertaining to me. Like that got really, really funny, especially with the whole bit with the fireworks. That really got me. Is Steve back by chance or no?
No, it's
like
it's weird because it says he's still here, but he may just had to go run an errand.
Yeah.
Oh wait, here he is. No, sorry, that was you. I was looking at the
go ahead, dude. You were gonna say.
So, one thing that I think doesn't get enough credit with just comedy in general is comedy depends on the unexpected. Like a lot of people say comedy is all about timing, and that's true, but I think throwing the unexpected at the audience, that is what's going to get me to smile more than anything else. In Rat Race, when they put the glass on the ground and then a woman trips on it, and it's like, okay, haha, someone else tripped on it, and then the lawyer woman is like, oh, we'll sue this hotel for everything they've got, and then like me being just naive, I did not expect to see that lawyer again. And then later, when Newman hits Mr. Bean, and that lawyer is there again, and then Newman names her by name, it's like, oh crap, she saw me. And so, like, he's had dealings with her before. Like, I was howling because it's like, I did not expect to see that lawyer again, and I didn't expect Newman to have had some kind of rivalry with her. And I just loved it.
I don't know if it was that or if she's supposed to be, like, a really famous lawyer.
That could be.
I'm not sure which one it was. Like, maybe that I'm just not aware enough of, like, I don't remember enough of my late 90s, early 2000s history. But, like, maybe she was one of those, like, really famous TV lawyer kind of things. Or like, got famous for, like, lawsuits or something like that.
Oh, she is a real person. She's a real lawyer in real life. Okay.
Okay, that makes sense then.
It's weird because she was dressed like an usher in a theater. And so I didn't think that she was a real but I'm just looking at the Internet Movie Database, and she was playing herself. So okay, well then I guess that's a little less funny, but
I mean, it still works. It's like just that he knows who she is and everything is really good. That whole bit's really funny. There's a lot about this that I'm just like, yep, that's clever, but the idea of the unexpected, because both movies have that to wildly different degrees. Like the drunk off his ass pilot, and then the fact that you just spend like a good 10-20 minutes with these guys in this fucking plane trying to, not die is really funny. And like, I really like it at Mad World because like it shows all the escalating buffoonery and danger and stuff and then it just gets to, like, it cuts to them in the plane, like, flying through a billboard.
Mm-hmm.
That was hysterical to me.
Yeah.
Just like, I didn't even remember that whole sequence. So it was just really, really hitting on all cylinders for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Mad World, if not seeds itself, at least delivers more believable absurdity than some of the stuff that gets pulled in Rat Race. Like, the rocket car is pretty goddamn ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. And, like, I was just sitting there thinking, like, there's no way that these two would be able to steal that. But then the way they did it, where they're both, like, acting like they're modeling it, and they're, like, doing the runway poses, like, hey, here it is. I thought that was funny. And then, like, it's still ridiculous that they're like, hey, how do you start it? And the guy's like, well, that's an excellent question. I'll just explain how you start the car. I think one I thought was kind of ridiculous was the two brothers getting on the demolition, not the demolition derby, but it's the monster truck rally, and then, like, they accidentally park their car right there where the truck is about to do the jump, and, like, I was just sitting there thinking, like, there comes a certain point, or I guess, like, the hot air balloon getting attached to the cow, like, I'm laughing, but at the same time I'm like, this is really absurd. So I don't know, like, I think there's bits of that in both movies, but I was willing to suspend quite a bit of it.
That's fair. For me, I really like the monster truck bit just because.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Finally, you're back. Okay.
I was here. For some reason, you guys couldn't hear me.
Oh, sorry. Anyway, like the monster truck rally, I really like just for that fucking amazing slow motion shot with the truck coming, and, like, it's clearly all composited in. I think the truck may even be CG, if not just a clean plate, but. Man, that's really funny. The only complaint I have about the whole monster truck thing, and it's most likely because this is probably someone's actual monster truck and they didn't want to, like, give it to the studio who would probably end up destroying it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really, really mad that the brothers, when they stole a monster truck, did not steal the one that's got, like, stuff on it to make it look like a Triceratops. Mm-hmm. That was so fucking cool in the background.
Yeah.
But Steve, I was asking earlier, do you have a favorite, like, duo or team in in either movie?
I really like Seth Green.
Yeah, me too.
I think, like, part of it's because I love Seth Green ever since I saw him in Buffy, but, like, he is just so funny in the.
Yeah, Buffy kind of ruined him for me in this, because I kept, like, at the end of the movie, when he's, like, the last one to throw his money in the bag, I was thinking, like, this isn't Oz. What are you doing, Seth Green? Like, it was really hard for me to let go of his portrayal in Buffy.
I mean, that is totally fair.
How about from Mad World? Do you have a favorite team or characters in that?
Mad World. I don't know if I have a favorite character from Mad World as much as I just have, like, favorite recurring ones. Like, I really liked Paul Ford's character.
Which one's that? What?
Colonel Wilberforce.
I guess I'm not getting. Is he like the police chief or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like the guy that's in charge of the guy who's constantly yelling at the other police guy.
Okay. Yeah, he was all right. I don't know. Mad World, like, I am so disconnected because I vaguely recognize a lot of these people, but I don't know them by name. And even with Rat Race, I recognize a lot of these actors a lot more readily, but I still don't know all of them by name.
I gotta imagine when Mad World came out, it must have been a much bigger deal to see all of these people on screen at the same time.
No, like that. I remember like hearing people talk about it, and that was part of it. Is just the fact that they got all of these big comedy actors in it, and that's an interesting juxtaposition because I know of a lot of these people more than I know them by name. But like Mad World, it's all like professional comedic actors. Like these are the people who these are like your Paul Rudd, your Seth Greens, your Seth MacFarlane's, like the big name comedy personas. Whereas Rat Race,
there's a few
kind
names.
of like a mix.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Whoopi Goldberg, I just know her more as an actress at this point than I do as a comedian. Seth Green is more in between. I guess I'd give him comedic actor. Rowan Atkinson,
a lot more like that in between ground, where like he's not a character exactly, but he's Seth Greeny in everything he's in.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't have a lot of range. Yeah. Like Rowan Atkinson is definitely a comedy actor. John Cleese is a comedy actor, but like I don't know, the lady playing Whoopi's daughter, I don't know her as like a big name comedic actor. What's his name? The generic white guy and crazy helicopter girl.
Breckenmeyer and Tracy.
Yeah, those two. I've never seen them in literally anything else that comes to mind.
Have you seen the Garfield movies?
Yes.
That's John.
Okay.
Yeah. And then he also, Seth Green and Breckenmeyer, they co-created Robot Chicken. And I'm really curious if they met each other on the set of this movie or if they knew each other before this.
That's crazy. I did not know that. Like, I didn't know this dude was doing literally anything.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's behind the scenes on Robot Chicken, so like, there's no reason to know him from that. But like, other than that, I don't know of anything he's been in since the second Garfield movie. So that's a fair point there.
Yeah. Like I just don't associate a lot of these people with like big names in comedy. And yet it's doing the same thing. Like Cuba Gooding Jr., again, he's just an actor to me. He's not a comedic actor or dramatic actor. He's just an actor. Mm-hmm. He has range. He appears in a bunch of different things. Though not often.
Would it be weird to say that The Expendables is a spiritual successor to Mad World more than Rat Race is? Because The Expendables does what Mad World does, where you get every action star on the planet to be in The Expendables movies. Like, I mean, you get 45 like really rough male action stars to be in that movie, just like Mad World got every comedian from the 60s and 50s to be in that movie. Whereas Rat Race, it has a few names, but it's also several names that we don't recognize. Like, I had to look up Whoopi's daughter, and turns out she was a bit character in Next Generation, but, like, I didn't know her from anything.
What?
Yeah, she was a red shirt in Star Trek Next Generation, and she may have played a Klingon somewhere, I think. I was looking through her Google images, but, some of these actors are people like... I'll confess, the crazy helicopter lady, I thought that was Rebecca Romijn who played Mystique, and that's not her. So, like, some of them are just people I don't know, and we're not even that far removed from Rat Race. Like, it was early 2000s, but I remember when it came out. So, like, I would have thought that I would have recognized more of these people than what I did, and I recognized about half the cast or more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's just weird. And, like, I feel like they kind of underutilized the best performers as far as the best comedic performers in Rat Race. Like, Rowan Atkinson isn't in half the damn movie.
It is. It's 50 minutes before we cut back to him, and he's still at the hotel. Because I looked at the time on the movie. It was 52 minutes in when all those kids are like, oh, is he dead? And I was thinking, like, well, he's definitely going to lose. And then it's like, oh, yeah, we forgot. We have this one character who's still back at the hotel where everyone else is... and like John Cleese isn't in a lot of it, and I wouldn't want them to have added more scenes. Every time they cut back to them doing some gambling, I thought that was hilarious, but if they had done more of it, I think it would have been tiring.
Yeah, like, I love all the gambling scenes with John Cleese. Those are really good. John Cleese has, for as little as he is in this movie, he has some really, really fantastic moments. Mm-hmm. Like, when he's explaining the whole fucking premise, and I don't even know if I can do it, but when he's explaining the whole premise, he's like, I can do whatever I want. I'm an eccentric billionaire. Like, it comes out of nowhere. He just starts, I don't feel like that was rehearsed or scripted. I feel like he just did that shit. It's so bizarre.
He had maybe my favorite line in the movie when they're all sitting in the room except for Breckenmeyer, and then he keeps saying, go! And then, like, so when you say go, and he says, right now, the one who's winning is Mr. Schaefer, because he's standing closest to the exit. Now go! And I was dying. And then right there in that scene, when we cut to, it's a one-way mirror, and we see all these people, and they're like, so what do you think of this guy right here? right then I was like, oh, okay, this is how this movie is going to differentiate itself, even slightly, from Mad World. And I thought, okay, that's awesome. And like, so every time we cut to these guys, and like one of them was like, what's he doing? Is he narcoleptic? I bet on this guy. And like, every time we get one of those scenes, I thought it was funny.
Those are some of my favorites. When they ask the prostitute how much that fucking ridiculous scenario is going to cost, that really got me.
I thought for sure the butler guy was just like, we were just going to get a brand new plot point, and it's like he just had to go and get some, and then like they all come out of nowhere. No.
It is a really, like, to your point about the unexpected, that is a really great unexpected scene.
Yeah, and then she comes back later, where he's like, I'm sorry, I thought she liked me as a person. I did not expect to see her again either.
Yeah. I think one thing that's interesting is Mad World kind of ends badly for everybody. They're all in hospital, they all lose money, and they all lose the money and everything.
Except for the women. Nothing bad happens to them.
Well, I mean, they still lost all the money.
Oh, yeah.
You can't show a woman being seriously hurt. Come on now, it was the 60s. No, like everything kind of ends badly for everyone in Mad World, whereas the characters in Rat Race get to like get their humanity back in a way. Because like John Cleese, right from the beginning, he's like, I give you a race with animals that can think and cheat and lie, and like, so it's really calling them all like just nothing better than rats, and they'll do anything for this $2 million. But like at the end, they get a chance to get their humanity back by giving the money to charity and screwing over John Cleese and all the other billionaires betting on them. And so I thought that was a really interesting juxtaposition. And even though Rat Race ends with the quintessential playing all-star scene, like I'm pretty sure in 2001, if you made a movie, you were legally required to put all-star in the soundtrack. I think that was like a stipulation in everybody's contract.
I think they did that in X-Men the movie, didn't they? No, I'm just kidding.
I actually don't know if it's in X-Men, but like it's ridiculous. It's in Shrek. It's in Rat Race. It's in Mystery Men. It's in so many fucking movies.
I forgot it was in Mystery Men.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. No, but like, just, they get the happier ending, All-Star excluded. And yet, I don't know, so I kind of question which ending I like more, because I generally tend to be one of those people who I like darker endings. I talk about this all the time, but my movie, Ian and Bobby's Epic Quest to Rent a Movie, spoilers, it ends with Batman showing up, deciding to be friends with Bobby's younger brother who's a superhero, and telling Bobby not to get so upset over it, and then running away in the distance with his brother. And so Bobby just got like totally screwed. He just got shot he got shot. He's like had just the worst day ever and everything. It just ends with me patting him on the shoulder and cuts to black. Like it's a real fucking downer ending, and I love it. So I don't know, like usually I like downer endings, but I don't know, something about Rat Race's ending works a bit better for me.
Yeah, I was torn, because on the one hand, I was glad to see that they did something a little different from Mad World, but on the other hand, it was at the end when I don't know how I would have rather they did it, but when they're all like, yeah, we're body surfing and they're playing All-Star, we're all dancing on the stage, I was just thinking like, that's really corny. Like, and this movie wasn't corny up until that point. It was like maliciously mean-spirited in a funny way, and then it got corny in the last 5 minutes, and it felt really tonally out of place, but at the same time, I was happy to see something very different from Mad World.
Yeah. How crazy is it that like 2 times, what's his name? 2 times, oh, come on, what's his name? Not John Cleese. Oh, God, he voices the critic. God damn it. Jon Lovitz.
Jon Lovitz, yeah.
How crazy is it that Jon Lovitz's character drives into the middle of, like, a presentation on stage twice in the same day?
Yeah. By the way, at the end of the movie, when one of the kids says, you guys are like the 12 apostles, and he has this look on his face, Like I think that might not have even, I don't know if that was scripted or not, but like, cause he plays a Jewish character. And so when they said something about like, New Testament stuff, I was just, and then he makes this face, and I don't know if it's disgust or just like, no, thank you. But like, I thought that was like one of the most underrated parts of the movie, I think.
There was a moment like that in Mad World too that really, really got me, where they're all talking about the splitting up the shares and all this stuff, and the one guy says to Beth Midler, he's like, "I hope you die, lady. I hope you end up with nothing, 'cause you're awful." And the dude just comes in and he's like, "Well, we can all agree on that." And she just makes this face in the background like, "Wait, I don't agree with that." So that was really good too. Steve, what do you think? Which ND do you like more?
Probably Rat Race.
Yeah.
I am kind of with you though in that I like the downer endings. But now that I'm thinking about it, I think ultimately I liked Rat Race as a movie more than I liked Mad World.
Yeah?
I think maybe I did too.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it is, but I guess it helps a little bit that Rat Race is technically shorter, and I'm not constantly questioning what was cut and what wasn't. And also because I know the actors in Rat Race more than just vaguely like I do with Mad World. But yeah, I like the ending to Rat Race is entirely earned from scene to scene of that movie, like you mentioned earlier. But I don't know what it is. By the end of it, I think there's just like a nice sort of like, what the fuck just happened experience for every character.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of dig that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I do kind of tend to just gravitate more toward the ending of Rat Race. Maybe it's just because I've seen it more or something. But one thing I noticed about them is Rat Race kind of like really contrives its characters all arriving at the same time. Whereas Mad World, it feels much more genuine that they all actually take forever to get there and they end up there at the same time.
And also with Mad World, they can get there at different, like, it still takes about 5 to 10 minutes for them all to get there. And then it's not like, because they're still going to have to find the treasure once they get to that park. Whereas in Rat Race, if one person gets there before everyone else, then there's no delaying that. Like, they win, except for, narcolepsy. But, like, I guess they had to contrive it so that everyone gets there right at the same time in Rat Race. Whereas in Mad World, you could draw it out a little bit more.
Yeah, and like, the problem with that becomes, though, like, yeah, Rowan Atkinson is asleep for 50 minutes of the movie. Like, that has got to be the fastest fucking train in the world. Like just the Cuba Gooding Jr. spends a good chunk of the movie wandering the desert. How long is he on that bus for? Like, just the timing of everything doesn't feel quite as even.
No.
Like, if you just like think about who got moving the fastest or the soonest, it seems like the brothers have the best chance since they were on the road the earliest out of everybody. But you know what? It just works, I guess. Like that's a level of scrutiny that I don't think I've ever brought to the movie before. I don't think I've ever been like, who really should have had the best chance to get there? I don't know. Mr. Bean damn near teleports, though. It's kind of ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with Mad World, because I had seen it when I like forever ago, and then I had watched it a year or two ago. So with that one, I guess I wasn't questioning because I knew what was coming. With Rat Race, I kept asking myself which one of these clowns is going to win, and then I still did not see it coming how they ended it. And I like the idea of them crashing the feed the world thing, and then I also really I think my favorite part of the Rat Race ending is that Breckin Myers sees John Cleese as like, I'm going to screw this guy over because he's really messed up this whole like he's, I guess because he realizes that John Cleese is just like using them and just making fun of them. So he's like, I'm going to turn it over on him. I really like that part, but I had no idea it was coming. And so I was pleasantly surprised, getting back to like the unexpected being part of comedy. But like I had no idea what was coming though.
They raise a fuck ton of money if you pay attention to that board. Like, it's a ridiculous amount. Like, even for the situation that they contrive, they raise like $30 million in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so then Cleese and his partners have to match that, which means they raise $60 million for world hunger. Mm-hmm. That's craziness. I just found that funny. Like, they just kind of like started having the board tick up. I'm like, maybe just a little slower than that. Uh-huh. There was $9,000 raised before that concert even started, before the $2 million was donated. And suddenly they got up to $60 million by the end of that thing. And that was still the beginning of the concert, man. Like, how much did they raise? That got pretty, like, ludicrous. Also, Smash Mouth is a terrible actor.
I mean, yeah.
Like, anybody else would have been fine. You didn't need to play All-Star. I know it was in the contract. I know that, like, Satan would have been very upset with you if you didn't play All-Star, but you really didn't need to play All-Star.
Yeah.
You know, this has nothing to do with anything, but I want to talk about it. So there's these really weird videos on YouTube that are just, like, very, very strange edits of Shrek.
Or B-Movie. I've seen some of B-Movie also.
Yeah, and, like, so one of them was, like, Shrek, but it's just Smash Mouth saying somebody, and every time he says somebody, a new Shrek appears on screen. And it's completely incomprehensible, so it's just somebody. It just keeps popping up with Shreks, and I'm like, what the fuck am I watching? It's the strangest shit.
My favorite one of those, I guess, incomprehensible edits is what we can call them, is the B movie, but it's only the word B.
Oh, God.
Or like B movie, but every time they say B, it speeds up like 1%. And so soon, it's like 5 minutes long, the whole movie, because by the end, it's like going light speed and you can't even hear what they're saying. Those, I can take them in small doses. I'll watch like 3 or 4. It's like, okay, that was funny. And then I'm going to put it aside for a week or two and not pay any attention to those.
The best one is still...
This is a side tangent to that, but speaking of, I don't know if any of you watch the Idea channel, but the Idea channel does like a whole bunch of like almost philosophical analyses of things. They tried to explain the phenomenon of why people are obsessed with B-movie, but they did it in the context of doing the meme. So they said every time someone says B in the B-movie, we'll explain why everyone keeps doing this with the B-movie. So they made a whole video. And the video is like 10 hours long because every time someone says B, they intercut their video into the movie.
Oh my God.
That's great.
It's the best thing ever.
That's ridiculous. All right, let's get back to these two movies. So we've talked about which one's better. We've talked about the endings. We've talked about the cast and our favorite teams. Did you guys have like a favorite like bit where things were just going terribly wrong? Since that's kind of the whole premise of the movies. Is there like a moment where you're like, God, this is the most ludicrous situation ever? From each film, and one that you preferred.
For Mad World, I think for me it's the very end when they're on the ladders and like right at the very end where everything is about to just fall apart, and then it's right before the hospital scene. I think that is the culmination of like slapstick humor in that movie. And then in Rat Race, it's difficult. I think maybe, like you said earlier, the helicopter scene with Dean Cain, I think that was pretty funny. It's hard to beat that, I guess, in this one. There's some others that are close, but like the going down the mountain with those signs about you should have bought a squirrel, that was also pretty good, too.
Okay. For me, I really love watching Jonathan Winters just fucking destroy that mechanic shop. Mm-hmm. That was ridiculous. That thing just fucking wrecked it, beat the shit out of those two guys. That was pretty good. And then for Rat Race, the one that's always stuck with me is just how much they had to contrive to get John Lovitz, who's playing a Jewish character, into Hitler's car with his mouth burnt, so what he's saying sounds like gibberish German in front of a World War II veterans assembly with a quasi Hitler mustache. Just everything about that situation was so fucking ridiculous to the point where he flicked off all the World War II vets. God, and like they don't even fucking bother trying to get him out of the situation or explain how he gets out of the situation. They get shot at and then it just cuts. And that's really, really funny to me. They end it at the perfect moment and don't even bother trying to go back and explain the rest of it. It's great.
Yeah.
How about you, Steve?
I don't know if I had a specific moment, but the Hitler one you're talking about is kind of fantastic.
The fact, like, let's go to the Barbie Museum. No one knows about the true General Barbie, the ballroom dancer. God, that was funny. That's always been funny to me. That they got, like, the Jewish lying media. I'm like, yep, these guys are in charge of the country now.
I like the I don't get a chance nearly often enough to reference this, but when she said I'm prairie dogging, and then both the parents are like, like that has stuck with me because I had seen about 20 minutes of this movie. I was probably 18, so it was about 10 years ago, I guess, and that was in the 20 minutes I had seen, and that has stuck with me out of everything I had seen. Like, there was bits of this movie I had forgotten, but that had stuck with me, and I wish that was something that I could just reference daily, and unfortunately I can't, but that I thought was really funny.
It depends on how committed you are to referencing it, I suppose.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Poop jokes! First poop joke of Comedy Month!
I'll try to limit myself to one per week.
Oh man, I don't know. I get you. It's like it seems like that almost created the terminology, though obviously it didn't. But it certainly popularized it.
Mm-hmm.
So Steve, you didn't have like a favorite bit from Mad World then?
I don't think so. I don't think I had like a specific moment. It's there's so much happening all at once that it all kind of blurs together for me.
All right. Well, we need about 10 to 15 more minutes, so why don't you take us somewhere then, Steve?
Okay, so the other movie that's a lot like Rat Race and is a lot like Mad World is Cannonball Run. Have either of you seen that?
I have not.
Okay.
Wait, hold on, wait. Does that have what's his name?
Jerry Lewis? Sorry, is it Burt Reynolds?
Sorry.
Is Burt Reynolds in that?
Yeah, Burt Reynolds, Roger Moore, a bunch of other people.
I've heard of it, but I've never actually watched it.
Okay, so Cannonball Run is basically the same movie as Rat Race. Jackie Chan's in it at some point, I think. The big fun running gag for that movie is Roger Moore plays a guy who thinks he's Roger Moore.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, but when there was a lot of rumors for a Mad World sequel, a lot of people thought Cannonball Run was it, and then when Rat Race came out, a lot of people thought Rat Race was a remake of Cannonball Run. But I wasn't sure if either of you guys saw that movie because that's the other one that's really, really similar to this. A whole sort of same like wacky, insane premise of everyone interacting with each other at the same time while going on a race, that kind of thing.
See,
and
it's really
a ton
interesting.
of celebrity cameos.
That's really interesting. So it seems like this is just a really popular formula to use like once every 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, because Rat Race was the 60s, right? Not Rat Race.
Yes.
Mad World was 60s.
Yeah, Mad World was 60s. Cannonball Run would have been 70s?
80s.
Okay. Huh. Yeah,
So about
just
every 20 years.
Yeah, we seem to
due
be doing
for a
this.
remake.
We are due for a remake. I'm trying to think, like, didn't they kind of do something similar where it was a bunch of, like, actors appear, like, big-name actors in that? Wasn't that, like, This Is the End, where it was the apocalypse or something?
Oh, there was that. But that was
the exact same premise. Yeah, not the race kind of premise, but, like, that idea of getting the big, like, every actor under the sun is in this movie.
Yeah, and
I guess Infinity War kind of counts.
Infinity War definitely counts. And it's a race to collect the Infinity Stones, so yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
now you guys have got
an interesting one because I feel like everyone knows somebody from Cannonball Run. in a way that everyone doesn't necessarily know somebody from either Rat Race or Mad World. Because it's not only Roger Moore and Burt Reynolds, but Jackie Chan's in it, Dean Martin's in it, Peter Fonda's in it. Like it's got kind of everyone, and it's squared right in the dead center of the 80s. So even if you don't know these people, you know of these people.
I need to watch that because I didn't even know what the premise was.
The other good thing about the movie is that it's so mercifully short. It's only 90 minutes.
Oh,
okay. That sounds actually really helpful because these two are really long, and again, I think they're really well made movies, all things considered, as far as like from the editing perspective. But yeah, you got to commit some time to these things.
Yeah.
And so a shorter version of this would be nice. I thought it was interesting that. Does Cannonball Run like do where in Mad World, like a lot of the characters are interacting and trading back and forth quite often, whereas Rat Race, like I really get the sense again that was filmed like separately, that they just kind of got the pairs together at different times and then like filmed the group as a whole
it's
together
more like
once
Mad
or twice.
World, where like everyone's kind of got a story reason for interacting with everyone else, and it's a big cast, but it's smaller than the other two movies, so that everyone has some way of interacting with each other. It also helps that some of these characters are either in the start of their fandom or at the tail end of it, so it was really easy to get everyone going.
Okay, that's interesting. No, it's just like it's cool how well structured both movies are, but there is something really enjoyable in Mad World that these characters keep crossing each other's paths, where that doesn't really happen as directly in Rat Race, which is kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I was having fun with some of the interactions early on in the movie. Whoopi Goldberg is hilarious in Rat Race. Like, she plays such a weird character. It's just like, this sounds like a scam. Ooh, a scam. That sounds fun. Like, what is that? Who says something like that?
I was kind of, and this is going to sound weird for this kind of movie, but I was wishing that we could have gotten a little bit more of a bond between the mother and the daughter, because they haven't seen each other. It seems like they haven't seen each other ever. And then like the Whoopi Goldberg's like, I'm sure you have a lot of questions. And then daughter said like, no. And then she starts explaining herself. And then we don't get to see more follow up on that. And I was really wishing we could have had, like, while they're in the car, right after Kathy Bates gives them the instructions to get to the interstate, like, we could have seen more of them chatting and getting to know each other a little bit more. And because these are both so breakneck pace movies where you can't slow down to have character development or bonding between these two, you can't really do that. But I was really wishing we could have done that with these two.
Yeah, that's fair. Some of this stuff just worked out a little bit better for me. Like, I didn't really need character development because it's just such, like... It's just there for, like, zany comedy, but at the same time, they don't get much character development, but, what's-his-name does. I keep forgetting this dude's name. Breckin Meyer gets... Nick Schaefer's as the character gets development.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's the only one with an actual arc. You notice that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, his friend is like the worst person ever. Like, he goes out of his way to say, like, hey, you're not leaving yet. Don't you want to break the law? And I'm thinking, like, I can kind of see where they're going with that. Like, you're a wet blanket and you go to a bachelor party. You didn't gamble and you didn't watch the porno. You insist that you did not watch it 11 times. But like, at the same time, like, his friend is... Yeah. And then the woman explaining the plot, like, to him, like, are you sure you didn't watch it? This is what it's about. And there's a family right behind him. And he's like, no, guys, I promise I didn't watch that. But, like...
You watched The Grinch for 11 minutes and then went back to Afro Wars. Yeah. That was the best part of that.
Oh, man.
You needed that cool down period, and I guess The Grinch really did it for you. Yeah, there's a lot that goes on with his character as getting the most development, which is kind of disappointing because he's the least interesting out of all of them. And I don't know, like, Seth Green's character gets an arc too, but it's like rushed in at the last second, and I don't know, it would have been more interesting to see that develop over the movie than this guy learning not to always be such a loser.
Yeah. And maybe it's I don't know, like he see, I don't hate Breckenmeyer, but I do agree with you. Like, he's kind of bland compared to everyone else. It's kind of like you have to have the straight man, or at least usually in a comedy, you have to have the straight man. But in this case, with this kind of movie, you can't have a straight man. Like, if you had a straight man, it would be someone who would, at the beginning of the movie, like him, he was saying, this is not real. I'm not going to, throw away my weekend trying to do this. I have to get back to Chicago. Like, that's what the straight man would do. You really can't have a straight man interacting with the movie like that. So he immediately becomes a little bit crazy when he jumps in a trash can and grabs the keys. And then...
Okay, can I just break down that scene and how fucking crazy he must look and how that makes no sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, he's having this kind of, like, flirtatious little thing with her, and all that stuff, and then she offers him a ride in the helicopter, and he just dives into a trash can, and she still gives him a ride in the helicopter.
And she said, so which hospital was your sister in? And he's like, my who? Oh, yeah. And then, like, later he confesses, he says, so there's $2 million in it for me. And I honestly thought she was going to, like, grab the keys and run. Like, I thought she was going to say, screw you, you lied to me, and you were a little bit weird and creepy at the airport. Like, I'm really surprised they stuck together throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, and that they end up as a thing. That just feels like the really generic part. Like, that's one of the things that I like about Mad World more, is... they don't, like, contrive a romance between anything. If anything, it threatens marriages, which is pretty funny. Like, especially for the 60s, that's kind of a big deal to be, like, that the wife wants to leave her husband and mother kind of thing. That's a little on the risque side for the 60s. And so, I don't know, like, just the fact that they don't try to contrive a love story in Mad World works a bit better for me. So there are definitely advantages and disadvantages to both of them.
Did you notice at the very end when they were all crowd surfing and Whoopi's daughter grabs Cuba Gooding Jr.'s hand and they both jump? Like, I was thinking, like, oh no, you're not really trying to have them get in a love story too, are you? Like, they haven't even talked to each other in this whole movie. So I thought that was even weirder. Like, at least Breckenmeyer and not Rebecca Romaine, at least they've been together throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, there's that. Also, a lot of people crowd surfed wrong. You don't face first dive into the crowd surfing. People have to grab your junk. you do the back dive. I mean, yeah, you get butt grab, but that's like so much, not gropey comparatively.
Were either of you expecting one of them to not get, like, I was definitely expecting the crowd to, like, part ways and, like, John Lovitz would just, like, hit the ground. Like, I was expecting that for one person. Like,
that joke is so cliche at this point.
It is, but they did like 10 or 11 people crowd surfing, and I thought surely one person's not going to get caught.
Yeah, it would have been different if they all, like, jumped in at the same time, but it's the fact that they do it one at a time that you're really waiting for it.
Yeah.
I was expecting that with Rowan Atkinson, but at that point, it's not about laughs anymore. It's just about trying to get people to stick around through some of the credits and make people happy. Speaking of credits, and this is how you can tell we're getting to the point where I'm really digging to try to get that extra couple minutes, but this is something I noticed. It's weird sometimes to go back and watch old movies when you just see how much the conventions have changed. Like the fact that Mad World's credits are at the beginning.
Yeah.
That was, like, that sequence is forever and a day, man.
And I'm pretty sure I had read, like, that Star Wars was, like, one of the first movies to, like, not do that. Like, to not do credits at the beginning. And, like, Star Wars it doesn't feel that long ago. Like, it was 1977, but, like, man, that doesn't feel like that long ago that credits were still being done at the beginning of a movie. Like, that's really weird to me that 1977 was when we were breaking away from that.
I gotta say, though, credits at the beginning of the movie has always been my preferred choice. I just think it's better.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so growing up on James Bond movies, having the credits at the beginning of the movie seemed exceptionally natural because you could have this whole, like, opening title sequence where all the credits jump on screen. Mm-hmm. And then they did it again when you had, what's the other movie that came out with Henry Cavill? Man from U.N.C.L.E. a few years ago. And I don't know. I just think it works. I think there's like a fun artistic challenge in trying to work all the credits in and stage your entire movie with nothing but with no talking and just visuals for about 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I think that like it's necessarily not the case now with the number of visual effects in films.
I mean, that's, yeah.
Like you pay attention to, you're all gonna sit through Infinity Wars credits and wait for that second scene or whatever.
Sure.
You pay attention to all the different names for the visual effects thing and like really time it out. It's not 5 minutes. It's getting closer to 10, and I just can't see it. I do like that movies have like started to use it because like Star Wars was the first big one where it's like the like where the transition happened is like directed by came up. Nolan used that beautifully in the Dark Knight trilogy. I fucking adore the way like with the Hans Zimmer score. It's so perfect. All three movies end on the exact same beat, and I love it to death. But yeah, I don't know. The beginning credits of Mad World are really boring, especially because like it's mainly instrumental. Like at one point, the dude says it's a mad, and then he gets cut off. Rat Race, that song's fucking catchy as shit, dude. Mm-hmm. Life is nothing. It's a nothing. Like that's a catchy ass song. I like their opening credits a lot more. Personal preference though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think we're good. We need to go ahead and go on to ratings, so we're going to do one rating for each film. I'll go ahead and go first. For It's a Mad World, I will give it 3 out of 5 Three Stooge firefighters.
Okay.
And for Rat Race, I'll give it 4 out of 5 rocket cars.
Okay. Steve, you want to go next?
Sure. For Mad World, I will give it 3 out of 5 excessive uses of the phrase mad. And for Rat Race, I'll give it 3.5 out of 5 disappearing Mr. Beans.
Okay. All right. How about you, Ruben?
Mad World, I will give it 3 out of 5. I guess trampolines from that end scene. And then Rat Race, I will give it 4 out of 5. Keys, because they use those keys to get to the lockbox.
Okay. All right, so we need a discussion topic for next week, and Ruben, it is your turn. So we need a discussion topic related to comedy.
Okay, so I've been thinking about this, and I hope that this is not too broad. So I've got like a possible thing to like narrow it down. So I was thinking of the discussion or the evolution of sitcoms in television. Specifically, I was thinking about how laugh tracks in sitcoms, it seems like at one time that used to be the norm. Like in the 90s, you could not find a sitcom on television that wasn't laugh track. But now it seems like if you find a sitcom with a laugh track, it's not I don't know. It's not going to be as good, or maybe I'm just like imagining that, but like
you're using it ironically.
Yeah. So like it seems like I don't want to say that sitcoms don't use laugh tracks anymore because they do still do it, and I'm always surprised when they do. You'll have something like
Big Bang.
Big Bang Theory does it. Hot in Cleveland. There's that one with Turk from Scrubs. The X's, I think, was that what it was called? Or
all right, so but like the evolution of the sitcom.
Yeah,
and just generally, I think that's a plenty big enough topic that we don't need to make it more specific than that.
Okay, cool.
I think that's plenty to fill an hour with the evolution of sitcoms. Okay. Everyone, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the beginning of Geeky Gentleman Comedy Month. We will see ya as time goes on. Until next time, I'm a victim of circumstance.
I'm the exile.
And I'm the Comics Kid 2099.
And we are your Geeky Gentlemen. We'll be discussing things.